that's going to win this game. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. This time is in the left stick. Into the 30, to the 20, to the 10. And the pocket is good.
Ball's knocked out of his hands. It bounces around. And I think Denver's got it. Von Miller again. Wilson fires. Touchdown. Sutton. His second of the game.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. That means it's the DBR, the Denver Bronco Roundup. I'm Keith Brugman. Just to my left, right? Depends on I'm trying to think about how everyone's watching this, but just to my side here, we got Albert Knoppers. And welcome, Albert. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm excited. Big show tonight, and a lot of things happening. Like I said, off-season's my favorite part of the season, I think. Even better, well, especially over these last 6-7 years, right? Jody Moncrief down below, hanging out in his man cave. Welcome to the show, sir.
What's up?
What's up? It reminds me, I thought we were going to have to get a sponsor with Budweiser or something like that and get the old frogs bag. What's up? Either that or Michael from the Office, right? Anyway, big show planned tonight. I appreciate everyone jumping in. Like I said, big show because we got a little bit of a guest coming in from the Mile High Huddle, from Dove Valley Deep Divers. We got Mr. Lance Sanderson. Welcome, Lance. How you doing, sir?
Well, Mile High, hello, everybody in Broncos country. What's up, guys? It's Lance Sanderson here. Pleasure to be with you guys, and thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Lance, I gave you just a small introduction. Just tell us a little bit about what you do, what you got going on, when we can catch you, because I'll tell you what, you guys have a fantastic show. If you want to really get into the weeds of what's going on, man, I'm telling you what, I love your guys' show. You got to check them out.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate that, Keith. Yeah, obviously, I'm with milehighhuddle.com. You guys can find us on Mile High Huddle's YouTube page every day at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We do a live show with everybody. We got 4 or 5 different shows now. Obviously, the Mile High Huddle podcast. My show goes live every Friday night at 6 p.m. Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast with Eric Trickle. We do a lot of NFL draft content over there, and as our name is, we deep dive into everything. We do deep topics. We try to do a lot of film study. We try to bring a lot of deep information for everybody, a lot of numbers, a lot of statistics, a lot of stuff like that to just kind of expand and try to help teach more football knowledge to everybody. And hopefully we do a pretty good job of that. And I appreciate the kind words on it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm telling you, it's fantastic, especially this time of year. You guys are pulling up names that aren't going to be just at the top of everybody's boards. You're giving us info and input that really matches our team. Really appreciate what you guys do over there, and everyone should go check them out. Fantastic show. We got Matt Staffiero just jumping in and saying, what's up? Appreciate Matt. As always, part of the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Got to mention them, Rocky Mountain Sports Network. That's who we're brought to you by. Check out everything they got going on. Matt actually just started up on a little bit of a podcast himself, so he's breaking it down over on Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Check him out as well. So, gentlemen, I just figured the best way to start off, we actually had a pretty big day. NFL Combine is starting to get put together. People are coming in, coaches, players, coaching staffs, media, all the like. And Sean Payton and George Payton hit the podium today. And, I'm going to start off with Lance, just since he's our guest. I just want to get, what were your takeaways from those two trips to the podium, sir?
Well, the first big one, I actually have a couple of big takeaways. The first one was Draymond Jones and how George Payton was saying that Draymond Jones is probably going to test the market and go out and just see what his market looks like, and then maybe come back to the Broncos here. It's very concerning to me. I wrote an article at milehighhuddle.com about a week and a half ago or so saying why the Broncos need to franchise tag Draymond Jones. You're talking about a guy that is top 5 in pressures, top 6 in sacks, top 7, I believe it was, in total hurries of the quarterback during his time on the field this last season. And that's even without having Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb full time. Like, this guy is doing an amazing job as an interior defensive lineman for this Broncos team. He's getting better as a run stuffer as well. But to me, like, letting a guy like that go and let him go test that market, you're only driving the price for him even higher. This deal should have been done a long time ago. And to me, that's the biggest takeaway, is that they're going to let him go out and see what that market looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% in agreement with you. I think that a franchise tag, at least until we maybe work something out, we've seen the Denver Broncos do that year after year with multiple players. We can work on a long-term contract, but I really don't want to see him test the market. Just a few more people jumping in. One that we all know, one that one of us knows so well. Evening, gents. Hi, Lance. Great to see you. Hopefully Michelle's not switching over to Team Lance here, buddy. I better make sure everything's okay over there. We got Sis coming in saying, "Evening, boys. This is Sis. Thank you so much, Sis. Sis, if you haven't checked out Dove Valley Deep Divers, you got to check them out. I'm telling you what, it's your type of show. Sis is all about the realness of football. Doesn't like the hypotheticals, and you'll get all the realness here." And Kenny coming in as well, saying, "Evening, all best Broncos talk on earth." Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Kenny, very much. So, you'll go over to Albert. Albert, outside of Draymond Jones, what was your biggest takeaway from the combine podium podium speeches, I guess you could say, or?
Yeah, and Jody talked about it earlier in our personal chat. The thing about Vance Joseph, trying to support Vance Joseph, and why did he have to do that? I think that was a takeaway for me.
Okay.
Why do you have to defend him? If you are really supporting him, you don't have to. You just state what it is, and you know what you're doing. So I don't think you have to defend him.
Yeah, I went down a long litany of all the different ways and different thoughts and processes they went through before they landed with VJ. Jody, I know that you might want to speak a little bit on that as well. Maybe have a little bit different thoughts, but bring it to the house. What do you think? What do you think from this? Like I said, combine podium visit.
Yeah, that was one thing I took away. Is we all knew he wanted Vic Fangio as DC, but why? Why did he have to make such a big deal about how they tried so hard to get him? I mean, he signed somewhere else, then that's it. Support Vance, and I mean, he already knows people weren't happy with the Vance hire, so this just gives him more, I guess, fuel. You didn't want him anyway. He wasn't your first choice. I mean, get behind Vance, and support him. Not kind of, without saying he almost was like he was our second choice.
Yeah, second choice at least, because he went through a long list of all the different candidates they went through, talked about Rex Ryan, talked about Desai. The quote that I actually put up on the Denver Bronco Roundup, he kind of called out the media in this one too. He said, Vic was supposed to be part of the plan, and then you guys scared him away. I thought that was really, really interesting that's what Sean Payton brought out of all of that, especially with, as you guys had mentioned, it was a question about Vance Joseph being hired on as as defensive coordinator. So, Lance, I'd like to get your thoughts on VJ coming back. Is there too much drama in Broncos country? Because we certainly seem to have a lot of it, especially whether it be a Vic Fangio name, whether it be a VJ name, whether it be a Russell Wilson name, or is this a good hire?
Lots of mixed emotions. Let's just put it that way. And I want to go back to something that Jody had said, was like, this wasn't the primary guy that you guys were looking for. This isn't the guy. Like, you obviously wanted Vic Fangio to come back. And to me, like, that's how this whole coaching search has gone. Like, everything that the Broncos have done so far in this coaching search has been, I don't want to say that they're falling back on like the fallback option, but their primary target was Jim Harbaugh as a head coach. They couldn't get Jim to come away from Michigan. So then they went to DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco chose to go to Houston, and then they came and circled back to Sean Payton. Well, then Sean Payton had his plan, and he wanted Vic Fangio all along. And then they're talking to Sean Desai. I mean, then there's Rex Ryan and that whole saga that comes into everything. Like, how do you figure out which one is the guy that you really wanted? And then you come to Vance Joseph and bring everything full circle here, a guy that fell out of favor in Denver, not only in the media, but also the fan base, and then also the players. You could tell back late 2017 when right before Vance Joseph was fired, like the players gave up on him. You're talking blowout losses. They were never really seemingly interested in having Vance Joseph as their coach. There's been a couple players that come back and, like defend Vance and the things that he did. But at the same time, like where are the steps forward with him? And that's the biggest thing that I like. I'm skeptical of everything that Vance has done before in his past, but also at the same time, I am kind of excited to see how this is going to work because he has improved every defense that he's ever come into contact with. It may take a couple years for him to do so, but the Arizona defense that he first touched was terrible. This last year was bad because they were injured the whole time, but he's always been at least a guy that players want to like gravitate towards. There's a lot of players that are coming back to his defense and everything like that, and he does a good job. So to me, I'm skeptical of everything, but at the same time, I'm very optimistic, like cautiously optimistic about how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think most of Broncos country are a little bit cautiously optimistic, but diving into a lot of it, he didn't have a lot of talent in Miami. He did fairly well. A lot of people bring up his stats and say, boy, he wasn't that great of a defensive coordinator in Miami. That's not where they were putting their money. That's not where their talent was on the defensive side of the ball. Similarly, when he, like as you mentioned, first when he got to Arizona, they started to build and start putting pieces together, but it was a lot of veteran pieces as well. Those last until they don't. So, J.J. Watt retired for a reason this year. He was injured, and, it's tough to keep a guy like that on the field. So, one thing that I wanted to take away from that trip to the podium, I guess I need to find a different way to say that, but, I asked him about Sean Payton, about his Russ's office and his once again, that had to, of course, come up. And he said, a lot of was taken from my answer. And it just reminded the media that there was no scrutiny upon that before week one. And he says, but at the end, he says, we'll have a way of doing business, and it'll be something I'm familiar with and is best for the players. Just really quick, I'll go around the horn because I don't want to beat a dead horse. Is Russ's office still in the building or not? Lance, we'll start with you.
No. I don't think that, honestly, it should be an issue. It shouldn't be because lots of quarterbacks across the NFL have offices. Tom Brady has an office. Kenny Pickett has an office. Like Aaron Rodgers has an office. There's so many different offices for quarterbacks all over the place. The thing that I think has more of an impact than Russell Wilson having an office is the extra coaching staffs and his training staff and all the nutritionists and stuff like that he was bringing into the building. That I think there was some concessions given to Russell Wilson that weren't given to some other players. I know that there's been some hot takery about Jake Heaps being in the building and stuff like that. Other quarterback coaches being in other buildings across the league and everything like that. Everybody being kind of a part of meetings. But the fact that those guys had the run of the facility is something that I think might have worn thin on this last coaching staff and some of the players as well.
I love that. I think that's a best way to put it, man. I think that was very much true. The entourage and maybe the special treatment was a little bit more than the office itself. I'll just go around, though, real quickly. Jody, does he have an office next year?
To me, it doesn't even really matter. Probably not, but it doesn't matter to me. Like Lance said, tons of people have had an office, and yeah, we've beat this dead horse. It matters nothing.
Yeah. Albert?
Of course he has an office. We call it the locker room.
I mean, that was one thing I took out of that, too. They tried to say he didn't have a locker and stuff, and it was multiple. I mean, people have interviewed him in front of his locker. So,
yeah.
I mean, this report was there's someone over in Seattle or media or whatever that is digging up stuff and has like a hard on for Russell Wilson. He's been gone for over a year now there. It's like, let it, you beat a dead horse, be done with it.
I guess my big thing is like, why do we have to continue to come back to this conversation? This is nothing new in Broncos country.
No.
And then when
right
knowing this stuff, if you listen to the right people, it don't even have to be the right people. You can listen to the Fan, listen to Altitude Sports Radio, Broncos Country Tonight, the KLE Sports, like they all talk about this. It's been an ongoing conversation since December. And then somebody at The Athletic that doesn't even live in Denver, doesn't work with the Broncos, is not a beat writer for the Broncos, apparently has an axe to grind several months later, and we're talking about it again. Like, let it go, guys. It's done. It's over with. Why do we have to just keep rehashing this same stupid BS argument all the time? It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm over it.
If you looked at if you looked at the face of Sean Payton when he had to answer the question and it was brought up, it was very much that like he said, he was kind of drawn back, saying, a lot was taken from my answer. Honestly, from that press conference, what I got more is, hey, everyone is going to be bought in. Everyone moves forward. Everyone is part of one big system that produces success. And I think that speaks more to where Russell will be, what office he will or won't have, what position he'll have within the locker room. I think that's going to be a much more involved team of players and teammates. And I think that will just be part of this whole system that Sean Payton's going to bring about. So,
and here is the other one. If you have stretch limousine and you come in with that, you need 20 parking spaces.
That's true. I don't know about the stretch, but he did have the big SUV. I remember that when he had to tweet out that. So, guys, we talked a little bit about coaching staffs. I think I want to just hit a little bit more on that. There's been a lot. Obviously we switched over just about every single person on this staff. I just want to, I'll start with Albert. We'll go back around the horn the other way. Who is your favorite hire on the coaching staff, offense, defense, special teams, you name it? And who's the one name you're most concerned about and or just leery about, maybe experience, whatever have you? Who's the one you brings the most concern? So top and then bottom, basically.
From to me, Vance Joseph is the biggest concern.
Okay.
Because we have a really good defense, and there's a possibility that our defense might regress. And because the defense was always very good for us. But the one biggest improvement I see is the strength and health conditioning team, coaches. Because I think
Ben Kotwicka?
Yeah, because having 22 players on IR at the season end, that is beyond ridiculous. So I really hope that the new strength and conditioning coaches are going to improve and that we can have players last on the field.
Kenny's agreeing with you, saying you're spot on, Albert. So go around to Jody. Favorite hire and one with the most concern.
Probably Mike Westhoff is probably the hire I like the best. He's always had a top special teams, but he's also going to focus with being the assistant head coach. He's going to focus on kind of that Jerry Rosberg role. And probably my biggest concern, and I've said this for a while, is I was not a Joe Lombardi fan hire. I didn't really like that hire, but he probably had his best seasons with Payton. So, I mean, that does put a little doubt away for me, I guess. The one intriguing one for me is Webb as the QB coach. I mean, he had an offer last year from Buffalo to go coach Josh Allen. So, I mean, his name's been out there, and he's, if Buffalo's going to trust him to go coach up probably a top 5 QB in this league, then I think it's a good hire here.
Very intriguing, yeah. It not very often, as Payton was talking, that you get to go from player to coach. They took a couple of chances in that regard. Lance, your favorite hire and your one that concerns you the most?
Y'all are going to laugh at me, but I think my favorite hire is actually Vance Joseph. And I know that, there's the concern of the defense falling off and everything like that, but you know what? It's funny to listen to that guy talk. He says some crazy off-the-wall stuff, a good week of practices and everything like that. It brings back to me. I'm trolling here, honestly. I'm obviously skeptical about that. Probably not the worst one in my opinion. I've got a couple that I really like a lot. Greg Minuski is the linebackers coach with the work that he's done with Minnesota for a long time. Anthony Barr, the Eric Kendricks, he's done a really good job with the linebackers there. So that's one that I really like there, especially with the lesser athletic guys that we have, like Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell. He's worked with really good athletes and get them in the right position to help them succeed and be just better players. So to me, with you guys, the guys that we have right now, the high IQ guys, and helping them understand just how to play better in coverage, how to better fill their run fits and everything, I think that's a big hire to me. The one that I'm probably the most skeptical of is the one that Jody is the most intrigued by. It's Davis Webb. And it has nothing necessarily to do with Davis Webb as a person or even as a player. I mean, this is your first opportunity. You're jumping directly from being a player to now being a coach, and you're dealing with a highly egotistical and legacy-driven quarterback that wants things a certain way. And what kind of respect do you have around the league, man? You were a afterthought. You've never actually done this position before. So with Sean Payton over the top of this, and I brought this up on Dove Valley Deep Divers on Friday, with Sean Payton over the top of that, I don't think that you're going to have to worry about that, or even the Joe Lombardi situation, because Sean Payton's going to be running everything on the offense. So you don't necessarily have to like worry about that, but it still is very, very intriguing to see how that all is going to play out. And with Davis Webb, I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
That's fair, man. That's fair. We, like I said, with all the different positions that we've filled, we've obviously let go, brought in. There's going to be some of those, and as we saw across this panel, that are intriguing and worrisome maybe at the same time. You know, if I had to pick my two just really quick, Zach Streif or Strife, I always forget, Streif, I believe it is.
Yep.
Offensive line coach. If you even go back to Sean Payton when he retired and he was sitting there in the press conference with him, he talked about him, how great of a player he was, but not only how great of a player he was, but the future he saw for him. And that was 5-6 years ago when we were talking about Zach Streif retiring and getting into coaching at that point. So I'm really intrigued on what he can do for this offensive line. On the other side, almost the exact opposite side, Marcus Peters, defensive line coach. Not that I'm necessarily concerned, it's just questioning. I didn't necessarily see, our defensive line just manhandle. I didn't see our defensive line be overly impressive. So Marcus Peters being held over was kind of a question for me of all the coaching staff. So it'll be maybe interesting to see underneath this whole defensive system, bringing obviously VJ in and the like, how he fits in and how that maybe he adapts to that system, and maybe he shows a little bit more than what I thought he should have last year. So,
yeah,
fair enough.
Well, just one last thing that I want to add to this coaching staff, and something that I think that is a possibility. I don't have any information on this, but I'm just kind of been mulling this over in my head. With VJ being the third or fourth option here, and the Broncos making a very concerted effort to keep Christian Parker around, I want to bounce this question off you guys just quickly. Something I asked to Eric as well. Is VJ kind of like a placeholder for one more year, because he was obviously a hot commodity on the head coaching cycle this last season? Is VJ potentially just a placeholder here for Christian Parker, who's been working with this secondary, Justin Simmons and Pat Surtain, and the work he did with Damari Mathis? Like, is that a possibility that we see Christian Parker become the defensive coordinator of the Broncos here in the next couple of years?
Albert, your thoughts?
I think that VJ is indeed a limited time here, because his reputation is not that great. So I think it is a possibility. And so, talking about coaches, my favorite coach that got hired, Sean Payton.
Yeah,
there you go. Realigning your number one, your favorite. Very good.
Yeah, and you can already see how much loyalty he has.
That's true.
It's great. It's true. Albert, what's your thoughts? With VJ and his possible, maybe moving away in a year or two, and Parker taking over as defensive coordinator.
I sure hope so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jody. Did I say
I think Vance. I think after his first run as a head coach, I think Vance might not be so quick to jump in, and I think he might be more suited just to focus on a defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in Arizona, he had Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, he gives no help to the defense. Kyler Murray, no help to the defense. And you got to look at Evero. Evero was a first-time play caller here and had this D rolling. I think Vance can keep it on track. And he's got Payton there that's going to do some things to help this D too. I mean, we might not want to score a 50-second touch or a 50-second drive or whatever. We might try to run some clock or, I mean, he's thinking the whole big picture where Cliff Kingsbury didn't care if he scored 5-second touchdowns.
That's
not
true.
to help his defense at all.
It's true. My thoughts on it, honestly, I could see VJ here for quite some time. I think he's kind of skipped around the league. I think he's finally found a home, especially with Sean Payton, who's trying to build a coaching staff, trying to build something big here in Denver. So I could see him being here for 2-3 years, an easy 3 years before he starts looking at other opportunities. I think this is going to be a coaching staff that's around and together for quite some time, and I'm really hoping that because of that, it's championships. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about runs towards championships because of that.
But you got to remember, like he said, slow to hire, quick to fire. So if Vic's not producing, I mean,
Vance isn't. Yeah.
The thing that I really am kind of intrigued by also with this coaching staff is how young is the offensive staff. Like, you've got Kerry Colbert, who's never been a wide receivers coach in the NFL at all. He was a wide receivers coach in college there for a while. Zach Strief, this is his first time as a full-time offensive line coach. You've got Declan Doyle, his first time as a tight ends coach. So the Davis Webb, first time as a quarterbacks coach. But then you bring it back around full circle to Joe Lombardi, who's been a long-time offensive coordinator. This, to me, tells me that Sean Payton, while he's taking his time and is being very methodical in his process here, he's also developing a long-term plan, because now you've got a guy like a Davis Webb, who is a very bright guy from everything I've understood. He may not have been the most talented player in the world, but everyone has always said he's going to be a great coach someday. He's going to be a great offensive coordinator, has the makings of being a head coach. Zach Strief was obviously a bright guy. Sean Payton really sang his praises at that retirement press conference, as Keith kind of alluded to earlier. Kerry Colbert, another guy who's also been a very bright offensive mind. He's been was a decent player there. He played for the Denver Broncos there for a while in the early 2000s, So to me, I think what he's doing is he's building up a pipeline of coaches that if Joe Lombardi gets fired or Joe Lombardi gets hired onto another position somewhere else, he's got another guy, just like he did back with the New Orleans Saints, moving through that process, moving on from Mike Westhoff and getting another special teams coordinator in there. Moving on from Dennis Allen, and when Dennis Allen was hired by the Oakland Raiders there as their head coach, and then bringing Dennis Allen back. I'm thinking that's kind of the thing that's the most intriguing to me, is that eventually this offensive staff is going to continue to move forward.
Yeah. 100%. And he spoke a little bit about that. Each year we have that churn that you had to always go through, but it's about trying to build that system, and like you said, that system that's going to continue to produce coaches within it. And I think that's something that we've seen within the Payton system. And even like you mentioned, even a guy like Dennis Allen even coming back. So I do want to get to a few comments, but first I just want to hit our sponsor real quick, Willow Seasonings and Blends. Willow Seasonings and Blends, if you don't know, Lance, is a fantastic seasonings and blends company based right in Colorado. They're a veteran-owned business. They're a Denver Bronco fan business, so we definitely support them as far as that's concerned. They've won Blue Ribbon Kansas City barbecue contests. They are a fantastic company. They have amazing spices, amazing sauces. They're available online. They're all up and down the range, as you guys would speak, up and down the front. Available all up and down. And I tell you what, you will not be disappointed. Just the other day he was doing a little SPG, their salt, pepper, and garlic, and some their Memphis barbecue sauce over some ribs. And I'm telling you what, we've had the exact same recipe at our house. It is lights out. Check them out, willowseasonings.com. That's willowseasonings.com. By far one of the best barbecue and seasoning companies out there. Put a little spice in your life, I believe, is the tagline. So We'll get to a few comments here real quick. First off, we got to say thanks to Chad Jensen jumping in here, say rock dudes, and giving us the good old rocks, their rock fingers. So I appreciate it, Chad, jumping in here, being a part of this. He says this is a Hall of Fame lineup tonight. Keith Albert and Deep Valley Dove Divers. Yeah, bro. And don't forget about Jody, man. Chad, you didn't maybe catch him down in the man cave down the corner, but Jody's here too. Yeah, we are an all-star crew. And Michelle Knopper saying, you know it. So good transition. JC or Jay is jumping in here saying, evening, fellows. Thoughts on a sign and trade with Draymond Jones instead of letting him leave and only maybe getting a compensatory pick. My next segment, guys, was going to be Broncos free agents, and obviously Draymond Jones has got to be on the top of that list. I'll start again with our guest. What do you think? Is there a possibility of a sign and trade? Is that something that the Broncos should take a look at, Lance?
Man, first off, it doesn't sound like they're going to do a sign and trade. Sounds like they're just going to kind of let him test the free agency. To me, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, I wrote an article at milehighhuddle.com talking about this, the potential of the Broncos using the franchise tag on Draymond Jones. Now, a big part of the franchise tag is you're expecting a first-round pick in return for a player like that. So it's a tag and trade probably not necessarily going to happen on a player like Draymond Jones. And unfortunately, if they do sign or they do extend the franchise tag to Draymond Jones, I don't think he's going to play on it. In fact, I think it's going to piss him off. I think what they need to do, though, is slap the tag on him, extend that negotiating window. You hand him a 4-year, $60 million contract with about $37 million guaranteed. The franchise tag value for Draymond Jones is like $19.7 million. You turn that into a signing bonus, hand him up front, drop his salary for this first year to $750,000. That makes his first year salary cap hit like $5 million.
Yeah.
The salary cap moves up to whatever, $250 million next season. You're paying Draymond Jones on the salary cap $15 million plus whatever the prorated signing bonus is, like $18 to $19 million cap hit. That's like the 12th highest paid interior defensive lineman for a guy that plays at a top 5 level when he's healthy. Like, to me, that's the way you have to go about this. Tag and trade, not about it, man. You got to keep your homegrown players. All
right, and that's why we brought Lance on, guys. Man, all that information right there, really giving us a good breakdown of what that would look like. Albert, I'll just pose it to you this way. Should we sign him? Should we trade him? Should we release him?
If there is a scenario just what Lance described, keep him.
Keep him?
But if that is not possible, yeah, we cannot afford him because we have 5, 6, 7 roster spots that need to be filled, and we just cannot spend that kind of money on just one player. So we have to be careful with what we are doing. If it turns out to be just like Lance said, and we can make that happen, keep him. Then definitely keep him, and then take it from there.
Jody, sign him to that franchise tag, sign and trade him, or just release him. Which are you going with, buddy?
If it were me, I would try to put the transition tag on him where you can try to match whatever somebody makes an offer. You have whatever amount of time to match it. I'm probably not tagging him because it's almost $19 million straight right towards the cap. And if you let him test free agency, I think he's pretty much gone just for the fact of I think he's going to get a Malik Jackson type deal where because to be honest, he really fits more in a 4-3 than a 3-4. I mean, he's really more of a 4-3 out defensive end. And I think someone's going to pay, like they did Malik Jackson, big money for that. So that's where, at least if you transition tag him, you can get some picks out of it.
That's fair, man. I like, that's one thing I didn't think about is that transition tag that hangs out there. I believe I don't know what the eligibility is on transition tags or, if there's anything on that. If not, I'm 100% behind your idea, Jody. I think that would be a fantastic idea.
I mean, because if you
but be able to actually, match that offer, keep him in your own home.
I just remember, if you remember Malik Jackson, I mean,
oh yeah,
he was a good player in Denver, but he got way overpaid, in my opinion, and then never really produced after that. And
Yeah.
I don't just Go
Draymond
ahead,
Jones
Keith.
strikes me as a person like that, kind of like some of the likes and stuff that he does on Twitter on negative posts. And when he was asked, like, towards the end of the season how negotiations were going, and he just said, I'm here right now, and just different things that he's throwing out there that's just kind of like,
Have you
once he
concerned?
gets his money, is he going to be engaged, or is he going to, I got paid, now I don't have to do anything?
Yeah, always the concern. It seems like the big paycheck can certainly lure players into a little bit softer play. You always hope you have that guy that goes out there, plays hard, regardless of the dollar. But good concerns, I guess. Like you said, he did put up some questionable quotes in the past, and I wouldn't want to overpay him. Let's put it that way, if that's at all possible. That's never usually a good thing. So, getting to a few comments. I don't know if I've ever seen Muhammad in here. Muhammad Badri, thank you. He says, "Good evening, Broncos country." So, thank you, Muhammad. I appreciate it very much. Guys, I think I'm going to just go around the horn on a yes or no because I have a few names in Broncos free agents. I'll start off with Albert, and I just want to say, should we re-sign this person or are we letting them go? What's your opinion as far as what the Broncos will do? Albert, Latavius Murray.
Keep him.
Jody?
He's
Oh,
you got to re-sign him. Yes.
Okay, re-sign him. And what do you think, Lance? Latavius Murray.
Yeah, I think you got to keep a guy like that for the ability that he has, falling forward all the time, the veteran presence, having an experience in the staff. Yeah, you got to keep him around.
Yeah, it's just interesting. There's obviously a lot of free agents out there, a lot of people talking about how deep the draft is and where you can get people. It'll be interesting to see. I agree with you guys. I think we should bring him back, but I think it's a lot closer than a lot of people think, just given all those instances, I guess you could say. Our good friend Dave Slade, I just mentioned about Willow Seasonings and Blends. He's jumping in and saying, "Good evening, gentlemen." So good evening to you, Mr. Slade. Albert, we'll go back to you. Calvin Anderson.
No.
And Jody.
No.
And Lance.
You got to keep someone around, and at least he can play both sides. He's better on the left than the right, and he's not going to cost a whole lot of money. I would think that you would at least see what he's looking for. I'd like to keep him around, but at the same time, it's not a priority to me. No.
And I say no because I would like to re-sign Cam Fleming, who I thought was much better. On
yes. I'm with Jody on this one. Absolutely. And I hope that's the next one you're going to. Cam Fleming played very, very well considering what they played. I like what David says here as well, that you need depth at tackle. I think Anderson is a developmental piece, a guy that's kind of keeping around and keeping some continuity there. Cam Fleming's the guy I really have my eyes on right now.
Okay. Well, Cam Fleming was on my list, so it sounds like a yes from Lance. It sounds like a yes from Jody. Albert, are you going to make it a sweep around?
I would test the market.
All right, very good.
See if we can find somebody else.
Speaking of testing the market, this is a gentleman who might be testing the market as well. I'll start off with Lance on this one. Dalton Reisner.
Oh man, this is probably the most difficult one for me. Given the right price, I'm bringing him back. You can never pass up serviceable. Like, don't go broke taking a profit. You know what I mean? Like, he's not the greatest player, but he's not the best in the world. To me, I think you got to bring him back if the price is right. If he's looking for too much money, then no.
Okay. Jody, head over to you.
Probably a no for me because I don't think we're going to run a type of running scheme that fits him well, especially if we're going to do a power scheme that was not his forte. You need more of another Quinn Miners on the other side.
That's fair. Albert, does the Colorado kid come back and Dalton Reisner?
I don't think so. I don't think he will fit in the scheme like Jody said. I would like to keep him, but because he is homegrown. But no, I don't think he fits.
Yeah, Dalton Reisner, he's a fan favorite. Even when I was down at training camp, he is one fantastic dude to the fans. But he has left a little to be desired, really peaked out almost his first to maybe his second year at best, and hasn't really continued to grow like we expected to. I just think, honestly, as many offensive linemen are needed around the NFL, I think Dalton Reisner is actually going to get a contract that's going to bring him out of Denver, and Denver's not going to match it. So I think that's where we're at on that one. I just have one last one left. Maybe we'll start with Jody, because I don't think we've started with him on everything since he's in the opposite corner. Jody, what do you think of Deshaun Williams?
Yeah, I would bring him back on the D-line. I thought he was underrated on the D-line, and especially if you lose Draymond Jones, you have the two rookies from last year. I don't know what you're going to do with Purcell's, and then you got DJ Jones, really. Yeah. So, yeah, I think you got to bring him back.
Albert, I'll go up to you on Deshaun Williams.
Yeah, I would keep him too. I think you can keep him for not too much money, and then with Henningsen as a backup there as well. I think you can create a pretty decent D line.
Very good, man. I think that's around the horn, right, on that one?
No,
so
Lance.
I'm sorry, Lance. Yeah, go ahead, buddy. Deshaun Williams. I'm sorry.
Hey, man.
Getting distracted by comments, my agenda over here. I'm like leaving you out, buddy, and you're the guest. Sorry, go right ahead, buddy.
Don't forget about the house guest, guys. God dang it. No, I'm playing. Deshaun Williams, yeah, I'm keeping him around. You're not paying a whole lot of money for a player of that caliber. I think that he's an underrated defensive lineman, but he's not going to go out and seek, $5, $6, $7 million. You'll get him back for $2 million. So why not see what you can do and bring him back and keep him in the fold?
Yeah, and when you're talking about a guy that you're bringing back for maybe $2 to $3 million, if he happens to be a camp cut, it's not gonna kill you at the same time. Bring him in, go ahead and sign him. If you happen to get that guy in free agency, or you end up having that right guy fall to you, in the draft, and you find his replacement, then it doesn't hurt you that badly. So
right. One other thing on Deshaun Williams before we move really fast. So a thing about, you said if he's a camp casualty, maybe, you bring him on $2 to $3 million and you cut him the last week of camp so that he's not on the opening day roster to guarantee that full veteran salary. Cut him, release him, play the first game without him, bring him back at that same contract. None of that money is guaranteed. If you have to move on, you have to move on. So that's the process that I would go with Deshaun Williams there.
I need to give another shout out to a couple of our commenters. I didn't mention it before. Kenny was coming in here, and he's part of the K&K show, and the other half is actually jumping in as well, and it's Kurt Valente. He's saying, "What's up, boys? It's Kurt." And I know Jody will probably like this one. He says, "Russ is going to shut so many people up next year, baby." Yeah, I know that you've been on that train. Jody, I just want to talk about that for a second, man. I've seen you in the comments for quite a while. What has you so confident about Russ and his ability to come back this next year? You were talking about him putting up some stellar statistic maybe next season, maybe be an MVP next season, maybe NFL Comeback Player of the Year. Those are a lot of big claims. What makes you feel that way, man?
I just think, he's been a winner his whole career. And he was playing well in Seattle. Go look at his last 5 games after the hand injury. He was playing well, and it all derailed in Denver. I'm not saying Russ wasn't some of the problem. He came in overweight, thinking he could lose it in OTAs. They didn't really have OTAs. You were there. They were soft.
Yeah.
They didn't do any preseason. He was in a scheme that didn't fit him, whether that was Russ that wanted that, whether that was Hackett, whatever. No one changed it. And as you could see the last 2 games when Rosberg took back over and they started running more of what fit him, he started producing again. And I think he's got humbled with all of the scrutiny that he gets. For a guy that, doesn't get in trouble with the law or do any of that type of thing, he gets more scrutiny and drama brought up over, just like he was on the plane doing high knees. So what? We made big deal about that. Who cares? He has an office. Who cares? Other players have that.
Yeah.
You can say we shouldn't have paid him $250 because look at we should have waited. everyone's going to say, well, why didn't you sign him right away? It was going to cost you more. So, I mean, I don't know, just stuff that gets dragged up from Seattle. I mean, he's been out of Seattle for over a year now, and they still bring up stuff. And I think all this is just fueling the fire. If you've seen recent pictures of him on his vacation, he's definitely lost weight. You can already tell he's made the mind up that he's got to get back to his old body. He's got to play, and you can tell he's been putting the work in. And I think that, along with Payton, who he reports that's who he wanted in Seattle. I just think that he's going to come out and just have an incredible season and hopefully put all this nonsense drama that gets, brought up 24/7 on Russ, puts it away.
Yeah, I think we spoke at the top of the show. I brought up I felt like I was the bad guy. I'm the one who brought up the fact that the question of Russ's office came up at the combine, and the backlash that I got from the panel here was enough to make me feel it. It's I can understand where Russ, as you're saying, it's going to fuel the fire, and I think he is coming in with a whole different mindset. He talked about, there's been the reports out that he wants to be coached hard. I think he's going to come in and he is going to change it around. MVP and player of the year, NFL comeback player of the year, I'm hopeful for, but that's a tall order to put in front of anybody. I just wanted you to be able to speak your piece there real quick. Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good evening, Keith, Jody, Albert, and Lance. Always appreciate Michael Ronquillo, friends usually over on the Mile High Huddle chat board. Appreciate you jumping in here tonight. And
what's up, Mike?
Yeah. What's up? Really appreciate you jumping in here, buddy. So, I know that you guys probably know each other more than anything. Mike's a huge supporter over there for you guys. So, Michael's a great guy, a great Broncos fan. Always love your opinions, Michael. So, again, thanks for joining the show. Kurt jumping in here, and this kind of leads me into my next topic. My next topic was just going to be some of the release players that we've already seen. He's wondering, we need a running back who can catch out of the backfield. Payton's offense always has a running back who can catch out of the backfield. Who can fit that role? One player that's been released is Leonard Fournette. Certainly a possibility of catching out of the backfield and coming down with a head of steam. What's your idea? What's your thoughts on a Leonard Fournette? And I'll start off with Jody on this one since we tend to ignore him.
I think Fournette would be nice. I think he's getting up there in age. I think someone's going to probably offer him more than Denver's going to want to pay.
I agree. Albert,
the guy that I was going to bring up that I would really like back is Chase Edmonds. I mean, I know he's a little high on the cap, but he was one. I mean, we've seen him catch balls out of the backfield, and he was real elusive. And that's somebody I think that I would like back. And he's under contract, so you
got to
can do something with it. Yep.
Yeah, it really came on in that last game, at least from what I saw. Maybe the last two, but that last game, I was really impressed with what he put on the field. Albert, I'll go to you on Leonard Fournette. What are your thoughts there?
Leonard Fournette, he's a little bit alternative or whatever you call that. How is Adams from the Raiders as a catcher from the backfield? I think that would.
Josh Jacobs?
Josh Jacobs, yes. I think that would be an intriguing one. And Sean Payton already played with that idea a little bit during one of the press conferences.
Yep.
How far are we afraid from that?
Good point. Lance, your thought on
Leonard? He reminds me. He runs a lot like Latavius Murray to me. They're both big, tall guys that, they kind of run the same way to me. So it's almost like you're getting the same type of runner right there, really. When
Agreed.
You watch them run, they could both, they don't get real low. They kind of high, stand tall when they run through the line and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Leonard Fournette, I think, is a little bit longer in the tooth. He used to come downhill a little bit, be a little bit lower. He's certainly gained a couple of injuries over the year. Lance, your thoughts, though, on Leonard Fournette?
All the way out. all the way out on Leonard Fournette. If I'm gonna do the running back thing, Latavius Murray is probably the way that I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna look to the draft. But if you're gonna bring in a big name free agent, not to poo-poo on Chase Edmonds here, I think that he's probably going to get cut, and if he does get cut, they'll probably try to figure out a way to re-sign him because you really can't touch that contract unless you're going to extend him, which then you've got some big cap ramifications with some money. I'm not exactly sure the entire ramifications of that, but I know that it makes more sense to just cut him and try to bring him back on a predetermined to deal. The guy that I'm looking at in free agency, though, is Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys. You're talking less than 700 total touches in his career in the NFL, and dating back to his college years, less than 1,000 total touches in 7 seasons of playing football. This dude has a lot of tread on the tires. You're talking he was the better running back of the Dallas Cowboys running backs this last season, and that includes Ezekiel Elliott. He's a damn good receiver out of the backfield. He's a damn good blocker as in pass protection. That's the guy I'm looking at. And unfortunately, guys, I'm gonna have to bail out on you guys here in just a few minutes.
Sorry.
It's okay. My kids are getting ready to go to bed. I told them I'd be ready to put them to bed and everything like that. But one last big thing here before we get out of here. There's a running back that I really like in the NFL draft in terms of a not really a jitterbug. He runs with more physicality than that, and he's got really good contact balance. His name's Tyjae Spears. He's a running back from Tulane. He's the kid that really kind of tore up the Senior Bowl a couple of weeks ago. Not really like the biggest burner guy, but he has some long distance speed if you want him to. But he's just so much fun. He's twitchy. He's got a lot of like lateral agility. He does a really good job with vision and patience in the hole, and he just takes off when he gets the opportunity. A very physical guy. He's only 5'9", 204 pounds is what he measured in at the Senior Bowl, but he runs like he's 6'2", 225. Very fun player, and that's a guy that in the third, maybe if you can get him in the fourth round, I'd probably be more comfortable there. But with the Broncos at the top of the third round, Tyjae Spears is a guy I really have my eyes on.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate that. I always love, like I said, the information, the knowledge, the deep dives on the Dove Valley deep divers that we get from you. Information is fantastic. Before you get out of here, man, please plug yourself one more time, and then I'll let you jolt out and take care of family. Family's first around here, so we completely appreciate that, man. But give us a little spiel for us.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me on first and foremost. It's always an honor. I'm always available, guys. If you guys want to do this again next week, I'm more than happy to do that, or whenever you get an opportunity to have me on. I really appreciate that. Guys, follow me on Twitter at Sanderson MHH. Obviously, if you guys are interested in the stuff that I do for Mile High Huddle, at Mile High Huddle, or just go to milehighhuddle.com. Doing a lot of scouting reports. Me and Eric are doing the top 100 players right now. We're working on that. After the combine, you're going to see a lot of that stuff coming out, so you can find all of our scouting reports there at milehighhuddle.com. Guys, also, like I've plugged before, Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast, Friday nights, 6 o'clock on Mile High Huddle's YouTube channel. Check out all the shows. Nick and Carl do a good job with building the Broncos. Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. You've got Luke and Thomas Hall on the Mile High Insiders. Like we've got a lot of different shows for a lot of different people. We may not be the most fun all the time on DVDD because we clap back and we don't take no nonsense. Jody knows that for sure. But we have fun, man, and it's always fun to talk Broncos with everybody. So please come check us out. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Really appreciate again you joining us. You have a great night, and love to have you on again. Thank you so much, and we'll be reaching out. Thank you very much. We'll send you out with a little Mile High salute.
Thanks, guys. Y'all take care.
Have a great night, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Lance had to leave a little bit earlier than the end of the show. I totally forgot he was on a little bit of a limited time frame, so I'm glad he jumped out, let us know. I'll run through just a few more of these guys and let me know what your thoughts are on some of these names. One of the things that we've been talking about is, hey, Brett Rippon's probably not going to be around next year. One name that was released was Marcus Mariota. I want to get your thoughts on Marcus Mariota. Albert, what are your thoughts there, buddy?
He is a great I would have liked to see him a couple of years ago already with the Broncos. He is a great quarterback if you need as a backup. You don't want him to play too many games, but he's doing. Yeah, I would like to see him. I've wondered
Very good.
about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to hit Kenny's comment real quick. He says, I want to sign Tony Pollard if the Giants don't sign Saquon. Of course, Kenny's a Giants fan, so he's looking for option B if for some reason Saquon isn't a Giant. Jody, what are your thoughts on Marcus Mariota?
That's a hard pass for me.
Oh, very
He
good.
hasn't been good for a while. I mean, it was the Denver game when Denver pretty much shut him down and they switched to Tannehill and never looked back. He was given the starting job in Atlanta and really did nothing with it.
Yeah.
And they've moved on after 1 year. If there's other backups that I'm going to go after than him.
Okay, very good. Yeah, first to hit the markup might not always be your number one guy, but this is a guy that next one I want to go to, one that Kenny, Kurt, all those guys over on the K&K show would know quite well. I'll start off with you, Jody. Does Kenny Galladay have a resurgence, and will it be with the Broncos? Would you bring in Kenny Galladay, wide receiver for the Lions? I'm sorry, for the Giants. One-time Lions, one-time Lion, now Giants. So.
He might not be priority one for me, but if you trade Cortland Sutton, I would definitely look there. I mean, he had good years in Detroit. And I think in this offense, he can be that Michael Thomas type. So he's probably not number one on my list, but
could be forced into that position.
Yeah, I'm not looking away if Denver goes and signs him. I mean, I think those guys could tell you more, but something happened in New York where kind of like with Alberto, once you get in the doghouse for whatever reason, you just don't play. Whatever he did with Hackett, you just can't find your way back on the field till something changes, and nothing was going to change there anytime with the way Dayball, coach of the year and stuff. So,
Yep. He couldn't find the field. Seemed like even when he did get on the field, they weren't going his direction. But Albert, what are your thoughts on Kenny Galladay?
Yeah, if we can get him for a pretty decent price. Right now, we only have one reliable wide receiver, as it looks like, and that is Jerry Jeudy. Sutton was not on his greatest last year. We don't know how Tim will come back or Hamler. And after that, we have not much really there. So, yeah, if we can get a wide receiver like that for pretty inexpensive, yeah, why not?
Trying to bring him in on the cheap. I just want to hit this because that's right up the alley. Kenny's jumping in here, and he's saying he's a deep threat wide receiver. I'd bring him in on a short-term deal with lots of incentives. So he says also Jones isn't a deep ball quarterback. That's why I'm leaning towards the problem more each day. Well, I don't know how much. I don't know how much Russell Wilson's necessarily a deep ball passer.
See, that's why I like him with Wilson, because that was his biggest strength in Seattle. He would extend plays, roll out, and he would, throw them deep passes to Kenny Lockett all day. And
very true.
I think that's somebody that can fill that role. I want to say that could be Sutton, but it's like his explosiveness is just gone since that ACL, and
100%.
I mean, they need somebody to go fill that role.
And you cannot.
Go ahead.
You cannot rely on Hamler either because he is too injury prone.
But that being said, too, that's why I'm also not on the bandwagon of just trading Sutton for picks, because you have one healthy wide receiver on this roster. Yeah. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get from Tim Patrick. You don't know what you're going to get from Hamler. You have Jeudy, and that's it.
Yeah. Sutton's been suspect over the last couple of years. Yeah,
but he's played.
How many guys are you putting out there? Yeah,
all right.
I want to hit Kenny. He's been rocking this comment for a little bit, so he wants to get go back on running back real quick. He wants to get our thoughts on Alexander Madison as a cheap option, as he says. Go the cheaper route with Javonte recovering. Alexander Madison is a name to watch out for, in my opinion. What is, I don't know if either one of you guys want to jump in on Alexander Madison. I'll go ahead and I'll put my 2 cents in the end, but feel free to jump in, either one of you.
Alexander Madison, who?
Oh, okay. so this is a running back for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, sits behind Cook, and has been a third down back. And honestly, before Cook came in, was producing quite well. So. Obviously, Albert's not overly intrigued by this name. Jody, what is your thoughts on Alexander Madison?
I think if I'm going to go on the cheap, my guy is probably going to be Latavius Murray. He knows this system. He's been in this system. And if you don't go that route, I'm going to look to draft a running back in this draft.
Fair enough. One thing that I actually seen there, I guess, and I forget exactly where the ties lead, but David Montgomery is another name that's been kind of floated out there. Has ties to our coaching staff. Of course, former Bears running back, and had actually some pretty formidable years with the Bears until as of recently. I'd have to take a look at what really facilitated that drop-off, or if he had that drop-off, maybe he just hasn't been the household name. But what are your thoughts on him, Jody? David Montgomery, Chicago Bear.
I think he'd be all right. He's probably not one of my top. If I'm going to go RB in free agency, besides the guys that are on our roster now, Tony Pollard probably would have been my number one, but that ankle injury kind of scares me. You already got one running back that's hurt. And the other guy,
don't want a roster full?
Yeah, the other guy is for me is Miles Sanders. That's where I'd look. I think you can get Miles Sanders on a team-friendly deal, and he put good numbers up in Seattle or in Philly. Sorry.
Yeah, man, I tell you, if you could get Miles Sanders on the cheap or cheaper as you're speaking, I would be all about that too. Your thoughts on David Montgomery, Albert? Is that a David Montgomery who?
No. I've seen him run. Yeah, if we can get him for inexpensive, but maybe we should dust off beast mode again. I think we can get him for cheap.
We can get him for cheap. I think he's been a couple of years retired, though. That brings up a good point. I actually heard, I forget. It was another podcast, another media head like us, I guess, out there kind of talking, and he was saying how interesting it is when you start looking at the Seattle defense that played with Russell Wilson versus the Seattle offense that played with Russell Wilson, and their take on him in the media. And I know we've drugged this through and beaten this up quite a bit, guys, but the point was that he was making is he goes, I really think that the Legion of Boom had a little bit of an issue with the amount of attention that Russell Wilson got, and that they didn't get enough attention. And if you look at the backlash from Seattle players, it's mainly defensive players. And if you start looking at people like, Marshawn Lynch, who stepped up and said, Russ is my guy, he was on the offensive side. And I wonder if, again, Jody, you kind of alluded to it. I don't know who's out there really pushing this narrative that Russ is such a bad guy, especially for a guy who is a fantastic citizen among us, goes out of his way to do charitable works, goes out of his way to make sure that he's going to children's hospitals and trying to do things there. Just a really giving person, a God-loving, God-fearing person, and one that, doesn't create drama or bring any unnecessary attention to the team. For a guy to get so much bad media, there's got to be something behind it. I even heard somebody mention it's like feels the same way as when Tim Tebow was even getting some bad media attention. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you going to do? Michael Ronquillo jumping in, and this is a name that I really, really liked May not be on that same level of piety, I guess you could say. But Kareem Hunt also has ties with the new Broncos running backs coach. And Kareem Hunt is definitely a guy that, he wanted out of Cleveland last year. Started off pretty hot when they were actually getting him the ball, but then that offense was in makeup mode all second half, or maybe even 3/4 of the season. They were trying to air it out. They really went away from Kareem Hunt. His numbers fell off. He wanted out. He ended up staying there. He actually wanted a trade. But Kareem Hunt is a name that, like, not only a great runner, but a great catcher out of the backfield. We all probably remember him from his days with the Chiefs, and then, of course, went over to the Browns. And I'm 100% on board with you, Michael. I'm a Kareem Hunt guy, man. I think that's a name that we should really watch out for. So, anybody's thoughts? Albert, your thoughts on Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, I would like to see him as well. I liked him when he was with the Chiefs, and he is, I really liked him. And one more thing about the Seahawks, there was a Seahawks defender from that area that defended Russell Wilson as too, because they shared lockers right next to each other. And even Russell Wilson to him was like a little bit of a mentor. So,
all right. Again, Michael Ronquillo jumping in here with Kareem Hunt. What are your thoughts on Kareem Hunt, Jody?
Yeah, I think he would fit this role good. I mean, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, and for a smaller guy, he was never afraid to stick his nose in there and block. So, I mean, I think that's going to be a big thing is can your running back block in this scheme, and can your running back catch out of the backfield?
That is a fantastic point, Jody. One of the things that we always look at, especially at this time of year, we're looking at NFL Combine, we're looking at NFL Draft, we're looking at numbers like the 40 time and the cone drill and all these things that just show performance as far as speed and agility a lot of times. Our running backs need to be able to block. It's going to be I think it's going to be key in this system that Sean Payton's bringing about. You saw it with guys like Mark Ingram, who came in and was a huge, huge asset to the Saints. We will need that from our running backs. It's one of the reasons I think that another reason that a lot of us are high on Latavius Murray and bringing him back is because of his ability to block as well as be that running back that we need, more like that Ingram. Mark Ingram, that's a little bit more of a downhill runner as well. So, Kenny, I got to give Kenny his props. He's coming in here with all the stats. He said, by the way, maybe this is for you, Albert. Alexander Madison, 13 total TDs in 2021 when Cook was hurt. 2020, 7 TDs. This year, only 5, but only 74 carries. He also had 10 receiving, 3 rushing in 2021. So, great numbers, Kenny, man. I appreciate you bringing a guy like that to the forefront. I don't think it's a name that's been spoken of a whole lot or been tied to Broncos country, but it's a name that I'll be watching and keeping a little bit more eye out on and researching those stats that you're hitting me with.
See, I think if they go with a guy like Latavius Murray, I think that kind of should tell everyone that Williams is going to be back maybe a little quicker than anticipated. If they spend a little more on an RB, then that might tell you that he might be out a little bit longer. Yeah. But whatever route they go, they need – if you go back and look throughout Russ's career, when Russ was at his best, they always had an elite running game. And that's what really lacked last year, I think. I mean – yes, Denver tried to throw the ball all the time, but they never could get a running game going. And I mean, teams were they didn't play the run at all because they didn't fear it. And I mean, that is, I think one thing that's being overlooked is that part of that's on the offensive side. That's one thing that's got to get fixed is this run game because that's what helps Russ.
And the O-line, because getting sacked 52 times or 55 times in a season that you don't even play all games, that doesn't work either. So that's where the running backs come in with blocking, and we have to shore up the O-line.
See, and me and Matt were
Preach,
talking
Albert,
about
preach.
that earlier. I think we knew when Russ came in here, he held the ball too long. That's always what he did. So he was going to generate sacks because of it. I hope that that's one thing that Sean Payton works on is you can roll out and we're going to run some things that fit you, but get rid of the ball. This holding the ball for 8 to 10 seconds is not helping you. It's not helping the offensive line. It's not helping anyone. And that's one thing. Someone's got to work with him on. Here's read 1, 2, and 3. If it's not there, throw it, run it, whatever you got to do. But just to scramble to hold the ball for 20 seconds, that can't happen. And I hope that Payton fixes that.
He has to. It's like you said, it's 2-part. That offensive line at times was a sieve from the go. But at the same time, if you have Russell Wilson back there trying to make something happen downfield, waiting for something to come open, hoping that, it's another thing. I don't think receivers were on the same page as far as what he wanted in those scrambles drills, so he just held it that much longer. It's got to be a twofold, but either way, man, like I said, to Albert, preach, the offensive line needs to be fixed. Preach to you as well, Jody, because we need to have a commitment to this running game, and we need to have a formidable running game if we're going to have a Russell Wilson that is effective in the passing game like we all expect him to be. Last comment coming in, I'm going to say, Michael Ronquillo just reminding us that Lou Ianni is the new Broncos running back coach. Of course, he's out of Northwestern, and that should be interesting. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on Lou Ianni. Anybody have any comments on him or have anything to say on him right off the top for Michael? And then he also has, and we did hit this a little bit earlier, but maybe we'll have, especially Jody hit Davis Webb because he spoke on him as far as being the new QB coach. But first off, any thoughts on Lou Ianni?
I'm not too familiar with him, but from all reports, he's a young and up-and-comer, and for Payton to bring him here, I think that shows a lot of trust, and in Payton we trust. There's been some hires that I haven't liked, and so that's been kind of what I've been telling myself. In Payton we trust. Yeah,
trust until we were proven otherwise, right? Albert, do you have any thoughts on Lou Ianni? And then, again, we'll get back over to Michael's thoughts on David Webb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I saw an article about Lou Ianni that he had several quarterbacks that are in the top 15 in the NFL. So, and that's very promising to me.
Michael, I promise I will do a little bit more research. That's one name that I didn't even have written down on my coaching list, as I obviously didn't have that penciled in for some reason. So I need to take a look at that. I know he was just announced, looks like yesterday. So, but again, Jody, you were pretty intrigued by Davis Webb. So why don't you give Michael just a kind of a breakdown on what your thoughts are on him?
I was intrigued for a couple reasons. He was offered the QB job last year in Buffalo. So I think that shows Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll at the time was there. I think that showed that they had confidence in him to come in here and work with Josh Allen, who everyone probably proclaims is probably a top 5 to 7 quarterback in this league. And then he followed Daboll right to the Giants, and I'm going to give him the Giants fans here can probably say a little more, but I'll give him credit for turning Daniel Jones around. I mean, Daniel Jones he's in the conversation of getting 40 to 45 million, and I think that's all because of, Daboll is a big contributor to that, but Davis Webb as well. I think he was basically a player's coach, and that is one thing. I mean, to put the faith in Josh Allen like that, and then he brought him right over as a backup, knowing he was almost going to be a player's coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that showed a lot. And those are two well-respected head coaches, Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll. So
100%. Well said, man. I appreciate you taking the mic on there. That I guess I would also just add that, all reports are that he came in and he just absolutely blew people away with what he in his interview when he came in for the Broncos. He came in and really for such a young guy, they said he had all his plays and schemes all the way back to high school in a notebook, and he started going through all these different schemes that he's played in and been a part of and knew it and understood it and just like I said, just kind of really blew him away in that meeting. So if that says anything right there, that's exactly what you want out of a young coach. So
and I like that a lot more, hearing that, than like the reports of Jonathan Gannon when he had like a little notebook card and basically said, "This is what I run, and when it doesn't work, we figure it out." And how that's what he told in his interview in Arizona, and he got the job there. So, that worries me a little bit more than, I would rather someone tenfold be over-prepared than under-prepared. And if you're going to get into the coaching rank, he knows that what kind of grinder Sean Payton is, saying he's old school, so things take a little bit longer sometimes. So expect long hours, and for Sean Payton to want to bring you in as your first hire, that's really saying something.
Says a little bit, sure does. Albert, did you want to add anything on Davis Webb for Michael Ronquillo there?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're only 20 years old and you get at several good teams a job interview, then you must be doing something good. And Sean Payton, of course, he wants to feed the line as well. So the next one up maybe. And I think this is what the path will be for our quarterback Rippon, because I think Rippon will have maybe a career just like Webb.
Yeah. For a while, I really thought that was the path we were going to go with Rippon. And now that we've went through a few coaching changes, front office changes, and the like, no longer on that path. But I think that Rippon does have that future in front of him. But for now, looks like it's going to be David Webb. So gentlemen, we went a little bit long. We did have a little bit of a guest came in, probably threw me off just a little bit. Again, a huge shout out to Lance Sanderson coming on the show. Mile High Huddle, Dove Valley Deep Divers. You can catch him out on Friday over on the Mile High Huddle channel. Fantastic guest, and really appreciate him coming on the show. Albert, thank you so much for reaching out to him and getting that all set up. So, fantastic.
Yes, thank you.
That was fantastic. So, been having some real good guests on here as of lately, and to no fault of my own, has everything to do with you guys. So I appreciate you guys helping out with the show. I want to give a big thanks to all of our listeners, likers, subscribers, people that are out there smashing that like button, people that are out there hitting that bell and making sure that they're always watching us and tuning into us. I really can't say how much I appreciate you guys, how much we appreciate you guys, how much it means to us. So I'm just going to run through Matt and Kenny. Thank you guys so much. Of course, we had JC and we had Chad Jensen come in here as well. Mohammed for jumping in. We had Kurt Valente coming in. David Slade. Michael Ronquillo, of course, coming in here. We had good old Michelle Knoppers as well. So appreciate Michelle jumping in here. Appreciate everyone, like I said, that jumps in here. Of course, you can always catch us here Tuesday, 6:30. We're brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We're brought to you by Willow Seasonings and Blends. And before I get out of here, guys, I'll give you a little bit of mic time if you want to say anything before we jump out. Jody, I'll start with you since you're in my top left-hand corner. What do you got, buddy?
It's the week at the Underwear Olympics. Some no name that you're not expecting is gonna really perform there and probably make himself a lot of money. I'm glad Denver got their coaching staff together, so because this year's draft is going to be important with not having those two third round picks are going to be huge, and hopefully they can hit on them. And I'm ready for this season to start already. I'm ready to put to bed last year, and I'm just ready for last year to be over. It was probably one of the worst that I can remember in a long, long time.
Yeah, as Sean Payton said in his press conference, he's going to go ahead and he's going to pull into the parking lot. He's going to remove the rear view mirror and the side view mirrors. He's not looking back. It's a brand new year. So, well put, Jody. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to next year as well. Albert, final thoughts before we get out of here, buddy.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for all the participants in the show as well. And I hear that the Avs have a really good winning streak as well. So they're doing really well. So, if you listen to this, we have some other shows that we can participate in as well. And Keith knows way more about it than I do, but let's go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love having all the guests on and love to be guests on some of these shows as well. So that's been fantastic. Again, thanks for Lance Sanderson for coming over, being part of the show. That was fantastic having him on. Go check him out. Again, if you really want to get deep in the weeds, really know the ins and outs, especially as they get prepared for the draft and the combine, check them out over on Dove Valley Deep Divers. Gentlemen, I just want to say thank you to all of you. I want to say thank you to all our guests. I want to say thank you to everyone who came in and was part of the show. The Denver Bronco Roundup is a passion of mine. It's a passion of your guys's. We're on here every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. I'm really looking forward, as Jody kind of alluded to, towards this the new season. Like I said at the very top of the show, this is one of my favorite parts. I'm already starting to break down all the positions and getting kind of prepared for what's going to be happening in the combine and getting ready for the draft. So we'll be looking for more of that as we move forward. So from all of us here at the DBR, the Denver Bronco Roundup, thank you guys so much for jumping in, being a part of us. We look forward to seeing you every Tuesday. So next Tuesday, tune in, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Denver Bronco Roundup. See you then.